Okay, everyone. Hello. Finally, I think we're gonna try to get this started again. Very, very sorry for the problem, for the technical difficulty, but we're looking forward to talking to you guys today about the some of the new features and changes in Dynamics GP. We're going to cover a couple of different things and go through that. But let's just start first with a little bit of the how to go through we're going to go through the webinar. Feel free if you have questions. Everybody's muted, but feel free if you have questions as we go through it. We want to make this as interactive as possible. Please go ahead and submit questions in the question box, and we will respond to those. We may go ahead and take them at the time or hold them till the end, just so that we get through all the presentation. We also, at the end of this or after it, we are recording today's session. So we will be sending a recording out to everybody that registered as well as attended the event. We also will be including this presentation deck that we sent out as well. And we'll be sending that. And we'll be sending that out and to you afterwards, so that you have all the content that we're going to cover today, not only the recording, but the presentation deck, that we have all of that ready for you. So again, feel free to submit questions as we go through it. So quickly today, I know most of you that are going to be attending today. And so my name is Steve Reed. I'm Director of Sales and Marketing here at KTL. I've been with KTL since 2016. I lead all of our business development and account management activities here at KTL. Our team here from an account management and business development is really focused on assisting customers, utilizing their existing technology better and improve processes, and really walk through this digital transformation that a lot of our customers seem to be going through. I am an older fella, so I have about over 25 years of experience in doing B2B and account management expertise. Andrew Frazier is going to be presenting as well. Many of you on the phone or in the session today probably worked or spoken with Andrew. Andrew is one of our senior business software consultants, leads and is very involved in our GP and ERP support practice. He's been with us since 2012. He's an older guy too, because he's got 25 years of experience, and you can tell by our smiles that we really enjoy our jobs here at KTL. So about the pictures there, but he's a Microsoft certified professional. He's got several certifications, including PMP, MCT, and MCSE, and of course has a strong knowledge of GP, SQL Server, and document management and more. So anyway, so he's going to be covering a lot of the technical features today, walking through the demo, and we'll be leading that and that portion of the presentation. So today we're going to just kind of talk about the roadmap for GP, kind of what are your options as a Dynamics GP customer. We're going to also just talk a little bit about some of the key features from previous versions, because many of you are not just moving from today. We're going to focus on 2019 features, but many of you are on older versions. Maybe you're on 2016 or older, and you need to know what have been some of the highlights of previous versions that have been updated and that are not in your current environment. So we're going to talk just briefly about those. And then we're going to go through some of the changes and the new features in GP. We're going to show that through the deck initially, but then we're going to go into a live demo, and then we'll kind of close things out with Q&A and that sort of thing. So question is, where's GP heading? I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, and some of you may have heard certainly from the competition or have read information that GP's dead, GP's not going anywhere, it's Microsoft's getting rid of it. There's a lot of different misinformation out there. Well, I'm here to say that that's fake news. So we'll use that terminology since we all hear that so much. But basically, we've got you can see here what the roadmap has been for GP, and you can see there have been a lot of updates and a very regular release cycle over the last 4 years since 2016, and a lot of new features and a lot of new capabilities have been added. We're going to here talk about what's called we used to call GP 2019, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Those new features and some of that information. But the key piece of information is that there are already releases scheduled, and the release cycle for GP is already scheduled through 2024. So, the demise of GP is certainly not true. It's going to be around and is going to be a software application that our current customers and you are going to be able to continue to use well into the future for as long as you want. Even if 2024 is the last release, the support cycle goes well past that, and you're certainly looking into year 2030 before you have to be even concerned with any of that. So again, demise of GP is well overstated and is going to continue to be updated and release, and new releases and new features and functions are going to continue to come out. So that should be good news for you. It's that's the message we give to a lot of our customers, and it is good news for them. So based on that information, based on the fact that GP is still there, many of our customers, and we have these conversations with them about, what are your options today, and what is it that you can do. Many of our customers, are thinking about moving to the cloud. Some of them want to continue to stay on premises. They don't want to move from GP, and there are a lot of different options that are out there, and we want to kind of talk about that because Microsoft does have a path. Many of you probably are aware of it, but they have created a path for GP or SL or NAV on-premise customers to be able to move to the cloud when they're ready. And we've been having these conversations with our customers that there's really currently kind of three options that are out there. One is that you move to the cloud. You say, I'm ready. I want to move to the cloud. I want to transition to a cloud environment. And there's the process of being able to migrate your GP instance and your GP workload into Microsoft's version. It's called Business Central. It's called Dynamics 365 Business Central. We can do migrations there to that solution. There are new tools and capabilities coming out all the time. Actually, we have a meeting next week with Microsoft where they're releasing new migration tools to take GP customers to Business Central that want to go there, and that you can move into Business Central. Business Central now has a lot more third-party providers available for it, so ISVs are now in the platform to be able to support a lot of the extended functionality that a lot of our GP users have, and it's a very viable option for a lot of our GP customers to consider migrating. So that's one of the options. The other option is kind of what we would call more of a cloud sync or intelligent cloud sync format, and it maybe is even a hybrid type of format. So one option is to take your GP environment and move it to Azure. We have about 50% of our customers that we're doing upgrades on or have been doing upgrades on in the last year to 18 months are doing their upgrades, but they are moving and putting their environment in Azure. They're just no longer hosting that in their on-premise servers or making the capital investments in new servers and new equipment. They're just now moving to more of an operating expense and moving their GP licensing and instance to Azure, and we just host it up there, but you still maintain the same licensing. It's still the same version. The other option is what's called the Intelligent Cloud Sync. This is kind of a preliminary journey to Business Central. It's the start where we can actually synchronize your on-premise or Azure hosted data for GP and synchronize it to Business Central. And what that allows you to do is there are some features in Business Central in terms of some cash flow forecasting, some of the machine learning and AI capabilities that are in Business Central. You could start to utilize some of that for, cash forecast and other type of predictive modeling that could, be utilized based on what's in Business Central. But your system of record still remains GP. It's not Business Central. You can really only view data there. You can't process or transact data. It's really a location where your on-premise data is replicated to Business Central, and you can look at it and view it there to do that. It still requires you to keep your GP instance current and up to date. You still have to, maintain that and keep that current. There are recurring, data syncs that occur. It can be scheduled to occur, I think, at least once a day. I think there are some more frequent schedules that if you wanted to replicate your data up there on a more frequent schedule, you can do that. Currently only limited data is being replicated up there. Sales and inventory forecast, payment data, customer data, things like that are what's up there for you to take a look at. So there is a limited amount of data that's being forecast, but it is a good tool for some customers that maybe want to start to expose without giving access to GP. They want maybe remote salespeople to utilize the mobile app that's in Business Central to be able to see outstanding AR balances or customer information or things like that, that can be done through Business Central just through the data replication process. So Cloud Sync is one of those options that's out there for a current customer. And then the third option is stay right where you are. Obviously, there's no requirement to move. Microsoft's not pushing or making anybody move. The fact that they continue to release, have updates and things coming out, the life cycle for GP will continue, so you can continue to stay on premises and you don't have to do anything. You can just continue doing what you're doing in that. So, that could be good news for you. You maybe if we're feeling like there were options and you were getting forced or pushed to go into a different direction, and that's not necessarily the case at this point. So these are the options. I think, if you're interested in exploring any of these a little bit more, feel free to reach out to your account manager so we can talk to you a little bit more about it. And, just explore your options. These are conversations we're trying to have with our customers to just get them thinking about it and planning for it because it may be something that you want to look at or plan for down the road. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit. So let's talk about a little bit some of the features that have been added really in the last 2 releases primarily because there were some very, very substantive changes that were made and were, from the previous version. So if you're on an older version prior to 2018 and certainly, the 2019 version that we're going to talk about today, there have been new things added that more than likely you don't have in your current environment. One is they continue to expand. It really expanded the doc attach feature and functionality and the workflow functionality in 2018, and then in the 2018 R2 release, they expanded those a lot, and that becomes, and in a lot of our current customers that we've upgraded, many of them have been moving to upgrades and implementing these new features because with the doc attach feature, they're trying to move to more of a paperless type of environment, and by having those documents attached, when they look at transactions, they actually have the invoice or the payable information or the receiving information attached directly to some of the transaction information that they're looking for, and it makes it much, much easier to do that and makes accessing those documents very, very easy. And they continue to expand on it. I think we're going to talk about some of those today. So they continue to expand doc attach and workflow capabilities through more areas and more modules throughout the system. And workflows are definitely a growing piece of what's is available through the system, for vendor management, GL accounts, invoicing and workflows and these types of things that are there. There's reminder emails, there's workflow reporting in terms of who has responded to workflows. So this is a piece that a lot of our customers are very, very interested in. And these are some new features that came out and became more robust in 2018 and 2018 R2. And they continue to grow even in the new versions. They continue to improve on them and expand and open them up to new areas of the operation of the application. The other thing is also there was a Power BI integration with some pre-built content packs that are available. So you can, you can have that as well, where you can connect Power BI directly to your GP instance, and there with that are some pre-built reports that are already available. Now, those reports can all be customized and changed, and you can actually build new reports as well through Power BI. So those were made in those versions. The Intelligent Edge Cloud Sync, became available in the 2018 R2 version, which allows you to sync your on-premise GP environment to Business Central so that you can have access to that in the cloud and begin to look at your data in Business Central and utilize some of the machine learning and AI capabilities there. And there were some financial enhancements and sales enhancements and purchasing enhancements that were also made in terms of expanded reports and new capabilities and all of those. There were too many to outline here. But again, if you want more detailed knowledge, and we're not going to cover those, these were all covered in previous webinars. We can send you those webinars if you'd like to look at them, but there are some new features that were made in each one of those as well that we can talk about. So there have been a lot of enhancements and a lot of new changes that have been made in recent versions. We're really just going to talk today about 2019 and what's there, but depending on what version you are on, there have been a lot of incremental new features and functions that have been added depending on the age of your current installation and your current version. So we need to talk about those a little bit more. So anyway, just thought we would touch base on that because we're only going to focus on one part. The couple of quick things that are fairly minor, but they've also made a change that they're no longer going to refer to GP as GP 2018 or 2019 or with the year. They're really kind of dropping the version number what they've been doing, and they're moving not only the naming but the modern lifecycle change to really be consistent with the rest of the Microsoft products. And it's really just going to be called like GP, maybe called the October release or the April release, whatever the release dates are going to be. They're not really going to reference anymore the year, that's how they're going to refer to it in the current versions and release dates and everything else like that. Just going to make it more consistent with the other products, and the life cycle is going to be the same way. There's going to be releases that are going to come out at least 3 times a year at a minimum, kind of one in the spring, one in the fall, and then there'll be year-end updates. There also could be interim bug fixes or defect type things that they need to update throughout the year, but there's going to be a minimum of 3 updates that are going to be pushed out throughout in the new release schedule. That again, as I said, is already scheduled through 2024, and those would be available, for you to take a look at. This is really a good thing because it really shows that Microsoft is remaining committed to GP because they're really standardizing and getting the release schedule and the name changes to be consistent with other products in the system. So I just want to touch on those. Those are kind of minor. It doesn't really address functionality in the system, but as you start looking at newer versions or new documentation or blogs, things like that are going to come out, it's going to reference things a little bit differently and not say like 2019 or 2020, even though we may still refer to it and we still have a habit to not break that it is going to change. So anyway, so I'm going to get ready, go ahead and shift things over to Andrew. Let Andrew go through more of the new features and functions. We're going to kind of step through those a little bit here in the deck, and then we're going to flip over to a demo and let Andrew walk through some of those actually in a live GP instance. So Andrew, kick it over to you. Thanks very much, and we'll start here with these system enhancement features.
All right, great. Thanks, Steve. As Steve said, I'm Andrew Frazier, who've been a consultant here at KTL for quite a long time. What we wanted to actually do is go through the enhancements for GP 2019, but keep in mind, many of you haven't even got to 2018 yet. You're in 2015, 2016, 2013, and there's a lot of features that have been enhanced along the way or added along the way that you can take advantage of above and beyond what we're going to be going over today. Some of the key features that you definitely will see, let's say with GP 2018, as Steve says, they've been working on improving the workflows. They've been working on improving the web client and its interface. They've been adding business intelligence features such as Power BI and the Intelligence Cloud's insights to connect with the Business Central data and so forth, as well as I've been dealing with the paperless society for trying to get comprehensive document attachments to various parts of the system. And they continue doing that from 2018 through 2019 and going forward. For example, 2018, they had receivables transaction entry and GL transaction entry document attach added. And here in 2019, they've added to the bank files for bank deposits and bank transactions and so forth. So they've been really working on the system and trying to improve it. The things that I actually want to go over with enhancements from 2019 that have occurred are for the workflow enhancements. They've added things for editing and adding users, editing and adding user security, editing and adding security roles. Basically, these are for processing our security and so forth. We're adding the users. When we create roles to assign to the users for security, it allows us to approve those workflows to make sure they're correct and approved prior to implementing them and just putting them out into the environment. As well as roles and tasks are both in there. And then you can export and import the workflows from one system to another. The other areas that they've actually been working on is Smart List. We all love Smart List. Smart List is a very valuable reporting tool that allows us to pull our information how we want to see it from the system. They've added various features such as the criteria for dates, such as prior month, prior period, next month, the next period. What these enable us to do is, rather than have to pull up the report and change our search criteria each time to put in the dates for the criteria, we can just put in the prior month. That allows us to go in and just we don't have to change our dates. We just run the report and it comes up with whatever was last month. Same with next month. Any forecasting or whatever, you can pull that information up as well. They've also added an expanded field for the period setup window, which is a very nice feature for certain users. Mainly what the issue was, if you had more than, let's say, 15 different periods, you could not see the entire range of your periods and you had to scroll down the window. What they've added is you can expand the window, and if you have more than those periods, you will be able to see all those periods at one time rather than having to scroll up and down through that window. Another valuable feature they've added is actually for a GL transaction. A lot of times we're trying to find out who posted a GL transaction, what have you. They've added a field onto the window for an inquiry to see who actually posted that transaction, and it gives us some audit trail and accountability to various people, which I'll go ahead and show when we get into the demo section of this presentation. As I said before, also, they've been adding the comprehensive document attachments to various different things where we can attach documents to bank transactions, bank deposits. You can also, even after they're posted, you can add documents by going to the inquiry views and adding attachments there as well. And we'll take a look at a few of those. Another valuable feature that they've actually added for the payables is long descriptions. Many times when we do transactions in our AP, we only have a 40-character limit to that field, and you can't always put a detailed description of what that is. So they've added a feature where we can expand it to 200 characters and gives us a detailed description of what all those payable transactions are. A lot of times what we've been doing is trying to abbreviate them so that we can condense the number of characters we put in. Another feature they've added to payables is when you're doing an edit payable payment batch, you can identify quickly whether a vendor is an EFT or a non-EFT vendor, which we'll be seeing when we go into the demo section as well. On the AR side, they've added a few things as well. When you're doing an apply sales document now, you can see the check card or credit card number on the screen, which you can see on this screenshot on the slide, allowing us to see not only what the GP document number is, but what the actual transaction number was from the check or credit card, allowing us to easily figure things out rather than trying to pull up all our documentation and going through it. And we'll go ahead and see that as we get in there as well. On the PO side, they've added a few features too. We have for PO messages, we have a setup when you're adding a new PO, you can have a message that pops up that says, identify that this is a new PO. It can also be show the message and bring up a new PO, or don't show the message and don't open a PO. So there's various different things we can do for when POs are created and messages that appear so that we don't create duplicate POs within our system. There's been changes to inventory as well, some enhancements that you can filter by the item stock inquiry by date now. You can pull up inactive or active items only for price lists, which before you could not do. They've adding an inactive field term to smart list. Sometimes when you inactivate them and you can't see them in a smart list, this allows us to actually be able to link back to them. And then we can also show the user ID in item smart list to see who added that item and who changed that item. In payroll, there were some enhancements as well. They've added the batch setup for including federal, state, and local taxes. They've had payroll integrations to add remittance address information for the vendors when they're integrated into the system, rather than adding just a default address and then going back into GP to add those remittance information. They've had a bulk assigned deductions and benefits, miscellaneous, various health insurance and life insurance to employees on a mass scale rather than doing employee by employee by employee. It saves a lot of time when we're trying to set up our system or adding employees to our payroll and benefits and so forth. We have the ability to hide inactive records from Windows for the various benefits that we may receive, such as miscellaneous benefits, health insurance, life insurance, and retirement plans. Employees can change history. When they change a date on something, it will date that transaction for any changes that are done to the system in the payroll. And they can have the ability to reprint payroll statements by an audit code. Fixed assets has also had some changes. They've now added a class ID to the asset transfer window, so you can transfer the entire asset class over from one place to another, which is a handy tool. Okay, and so they're mainly the new features that were added in 2019. What I want to do is go through a few of those through a demo, and so you can see how they actually function. So the first thing, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So now that I'm showing my screen, I'm actually logged into the GP 29 or GP October release. First of all, what I want to do is, Steve had mentioned that about the new identifying the new version numbering and so forth. What I'm going to do is go to Help and About Dynamics GP and just show you what that actually means. When I get in there, you'll notice it says Microsoft Dynamics GP 18.2.1013. This is actually their October 2019 release. Prior to this, the version numbering would always be 18 for GP 2018, followed by 00, followed by the numbering of the release. They're going to actually use that middle digit now for the next release of each version, which in this case will be 2. So this is 18.2.1013. That's basically what they'll mean, and you'll see this. These numbers will all increment as new releases come out or service packs come out over time. It actually will be very nice because before we had to go for an upgrade, it can take quite a bit of time and so forth. But as they're service packing it along the way, upgrade should be a lot easier to do and much less expensive for you, which we're pretty excited about. Okay, the next thing I want to go ahead and show you would be the workflow process, and we get there by going to Microsoft Dynamics GP, Tools, Setup, Company, Workflow, and Workflow Maintenance. In there, you're going to see the various different workflows that you have available to you. In this version release, they have, if I click on this drop-down arrow next to purchasing, it has all the various modules we can select from. And in this October release of 2019, under administration, you'll see the various tasks I've added here for our security roles. Anybody involved in security roles are probably more interested in some of these, but for user approval and things, that can be more across the board of interest. Basically, as I said before, security role approval allows us to create a security role within the system, and before it's actually implemented and put out for the users to use, it can go through an approval process to various users to make sure it does indeed need to be put in the system, and we can control and have accountability more for our roles within our system. Many times we just create roles and create roles and roles and roles, and eventually we don't even know what they are. This gives us a control of that environment. Same with tasks. Basically, tasks and roles in the security environment is tasks point to a certain part of the system, such as printing 1099s or what have you. A roles would be a sum of, let's say, an AP function for various different things. But we can also not only do the approval for the roles, but we can do the approvals for the tasks as well. Other things they added to the system would be user approval. As I said, this is probably one of the key ones, is when you put a new user in a system, it can go through a process of being approved prior to actually getting access to GP. It gives us much more control over our security, and management has more of a say on what's happening within our GP system. And then you have user security approval. Basically, any modifications to a security, to a user account within the security can also be approved, so any changes that are made. And basically, just to give you a quick synopsis of how that works is, let's say we have a user approval. What we do is we create a new workflow under user approval, because we can have multiple workflows under user approval, or any of these workflows. I'm just going to call this a user approve, description user approve. I can make it active or inactive. Right now, when I'm creating it, I generally make it inactive until I'm ready to activate it. Then I make a decision of what's going to happen with this. Are we going to allow approvers to delegate to other people to approve it? Can the original person who submitted the user approve it? Sometimes we want to have cross functionality to make sure and confirm that user was put in correctly, so we might not want to check that. Allows at least one approver. If we have a list of 4 approvers, we can have any one of those 4 can approve it. Once it's approved, it goes in the system. Or use an alternate final approver, meaning it's going to go ahead and, if none of these people do it, it can go ahead and submit it to the next level up for final approval. Then you have what can be, when a task is overdue, what can happen. You can take no action on it, meaning it just sits in that queue to be approved. You can escalate it to a next approver, so we have steps, approval steps for a multiple step process. It would go to the next approver. Or we can force it to escalate to a different approver, or if it hasn't been addressed within a certain amount of time, it just automatically rejected and is never approved. So I'm going to say I'm going to at least one approver, take no action. I'm going to save this. And then I would go ahead and once I create and define that workflow, then I would create the steps. And it might be a multiple step or a single step process, which in that case I would click on new step. I would type in new approval for a step. Can you see this?
Andrew, they're saying that, just real quick, your Business Central Intelligent Cloud window, can you minimize that? It's maybe blocking part of the view of what you're demoing.
Oh, because we're not seeing this. Do I have to go back to share that other window?
Do share desktop.
All right, so how do I? Don't share button anymore. Stop sharing?
Share desktop.
Okay, can we see me now?
We can.
Okay, I apologize about that. It's
Sorry for that.
a little technical glitch we had with our, we're using a new system to present with, and we're still trying to figure a few aspects out of it. I apologize. So obviously what you guys missed is when I went in here to creating the workflow, I went to user approval. I created the first, defined one workflow called user approve, and now I'm in the process of creating a step called new approve. And basically I created the step name and description. Is it a task or approval? In this case, I'm going to have a one-step approval. Then I have a condition. Action is always required for the step. So anytime a user is put in, I'm going to force it to go through this approval process. I could have criteria in here. Action is required only when a certain condition is met. Put a condition saying, let's say, if the user starts with the letter C, you don't have to approve it or what have you, but that's not, normally we just approve all vendors in this case, in this type of workflow. We want to approve, have an action required at this step all the time. Then you have an assignment, who's going to be assigned to. In this case, I don't have Active Directory, so I can't really show you an assignment, but in this case, I would just select a user from my Active Directory list as a people or group, select it and click on OK. It would fill out that assigned to. So once the user is put in, it would go to automatically be sent to this person to approve it. Then you have a time limit. How long does that user have to take a look at this before they approve it? Let's say it's going to be 3 days. This gives them 3 days in their queue to approve that user. And do I want to apply the workflow calendar? You can set up a calendar such as you may have, we're only working Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday is not included, so the calendar would exclude those 2 days. So if I put something in on Friday, it really wouldn't need to be approved until the end of the day, Tuesday. So you have Friday, Monday, and Tuesday in that case. And do you want to have reminders sent out to the individual that's something to approve? Probably a good idea. And it will, in this case, it will send it out every 4 hours to them until it is approved. So basically that's it, and then we click on Save Step. I don't have a person on here, so I'm not going to be able to save this, but that's basically how this would work. And those are your new workflows that are added. And if you're using workflows, you already know exactly what I've been talking about. It's just these new features or new workflow types that we can create workflows for. Okay, the next thing I wanted to show you is we have some additions to Smart List, which are kind of cool. I go to Microsoft Dynamics GP and Smart List, and I pull up, as I talked about, we have these different date criteria we can put in. And I'm going to go to the GL account transactions, and let's say I want to go ahead and search for things from last month. I can go to, well, let's say it's not going to actually work for my demo data, but if I go to search, I can pull up a transaction date, and then you'll notice on my filter criteria, I can say it's equal to, at the bottom I'm going to have a prior month, next month, prior period, or next period, and this enables us to not have to change our dates every time we run this report. If we say prior month, and it's January this month, it will pull up anything from last December for us to take a look at for this report. And basically why they have a period versus a month is some people don't have their, they may have different periods that don't fall within a month. And so that's why they would have the period and the month together. And then you also have, as I talked to the example for prior month, and we also have the next month and next period as an option as well. Okay. The next thing I want to go over would be the user, the adding of the user to the journal entry. If I go to inquiry and I pull up the financial and go to pull up a journal entry, I search for one. You'll notice this new field here called user who posted, and it's lesson user one. Is a valuable thing for reporting and holding accountability for our users who actually posted things. That appears now and is traceable. It's kind of an audit trail for us. Okay. The next thing in GP that I really want to go over would be the bank transactions and attaching the document attached for that. If I'm entering a bank transactions, actually I'm going to go the way you probably would go. I'm going to click on financial. And if I do a bank deposit, I start creating a deposit, select my account number, checking account number, or checking account. You'll notice now we have this notes field next to deposit number. If I click on that, it'll come in my notes screen. I then can click on this attachment, this little paper clip. And you'll see this little screen listing files that are attached to this document. Currently, I have no files attached to this. I could scan something in if I have a scanner, or I can click on attach. I'm going to click on attach and pull something from my desktop. I'm going to pull in this blog that I wrote last month. And click on OK. And you'll see it will be identified there by its name of the document. It'll have a date for it. It'll have a time it was attached, who attached it, and what kind of things it's attached to, in this case, notes. I can actually click on this and click on preview, and you'll see the document pull up that you can view as well. And as I said, you can have multiple documents attached to it. I'll pull up another one of these, and you'll just keep on listing these different attachments to it. Let's say I accidentally attached this. I didn't really want to attach it. I can go ahead and click on this delete button over here and delete it, and it removes it from my screen. One nice thing is, based on accountability and accidentally deleting things, if you go to your deleted, you'll notice it has a deleted item there too, which is the one that I deleted. So we have traceability just in case something was accidentally deleted. Okay. And that's how we would actually attach something to a bank deposit. We have the same holds true for a bank transaction. If I go to my transactions, bank transactions, enter a transaction, select my checkbook ID, has my number, and you'll notice my notes button next to it has been added. We had the two previous ones, note buttons for checkbook ID and currency ID, but we did not have one for the actual number. And the same rules will apply. I come in my notes screen, which I can put in notes and attach them, or I can go in here and I can attach a document similar to what I did before. And then that would be attached, and all I have to do is go back in here, and there it would be. And then I can preview it. Okay. So they're continuously adding to that document attachment, and it's a very useful feature. Allows us to go paperless and have documents attached right to our screens as we need them. Okay, the next thing I want to go over would be the payables long description. This is actually a very exciting one to me. What we currently have, if I go to my purchasing module and I go to my transactions and go to transaction entry, you'll notice when I get the description, I only have a limited number of characters I can use for a description. And once again, we're forced into trying to condense and abbreviate things, and it's kind of ends up sometimes becoming meaningless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this provide us with a long description. And if I go to Microsoft Dynamics GP Tools, Setup, and Purchasing and Payables, you'll notice this new setup screen called Enable Long Description and Payables Transaction Entry. If I click on that box and I click on OK, now when I go to Transaction Entry, you'll notice a short description here and a long description here. We can have, so the short description holds there, but then if I do my long description, you'll see I can just keep on typing and typing and typing and typing. It's a very useful feature for being able to process your POs and traceability and so forth, being able to have that long description rather than that short description. A lot of times things are lost because of that description being able to search for them. This is going to be a very valuable tool for us going forward. Okay. And mainly the last thing I want to really show you will be under purchasing and the edit payment batch. When I'm in a payment batch and I pull up a batch, you'll notice we have this new thing down here called indicate the vendor is set up for EFT. If I go to advanced B001, you'll notice they have this little box or little icon that indicates this is an EFT vendor versus the ones that are blank are not EFT vendors. This allows you when you're processing checks and check runs to make sure and confirm One's going to go through EFT, one's going to go through an actual payroll check or a AP check. And this is also going to be a very valuable feature for people going forward. Because mainly, and there's quite a few other features for the payroll, as we talked about, for the fixed assets that were added. They're once again on the AR document. They had for apply sales document. You now see the check number and the credit card number on there. But they're the main things that I wanted to go through to show you what's new in GP and what's been added to GP. And I guess at this point we can open it up for questions.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and go back to this the slide deck real quick, Andrew. Appreciate that. Thank you. I knew we would have a hard time getting through all of that and getting that covered. So let's just close out here. I think there's a lot of features that are there that we didn't have really time to go through. We highlighted some of them on the slide deck, but there are some other features and functions that we can go through with you. I think one of the other things we wanted to just talk about is many of you have probably heard about the Power Platform, which is Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents. Power BI has already been part of being able to utilize that in GP with the content packs and the connectors that are there for Power BI. A lot of our clients are using Power BI to enhance their dashboarding and reporting out of GP. But Power Apps and Power Automate are some great low-code, no-code type of tools that are available to help. A lot of our customers are using them to capture information, to push into GP. So you could build an app that could be utilized to capture, warehouse data, inventory count information, different things like that, and then utilize the Power Automate, which used to be called Flow. They've renamed it, but that could be utilized to then actually push that information and take the data captured through the Power App and push it into GP. So you hear about Power Apps. Many times people are thinking that it's only available in the cloud applications, but that's not true. They're very much can be utilized in your GP environment to help enhance and improve your business processes and the things that you're doing there. So again, consider that. Ask us about it. We're doing a lot of certainly Power BI development, but are doing more and more in the Power Apps and Power Automate areas as well to utilize these tools to help our customers. Last thing is that I want to go through here is just that for a special offer for today for the attendees that are viewing this webinar is that for anybody that moves forward with an upgrade to the new version of GP, and we complete that prior to April 30th, basically we will set up do the GP, the intelligent sync, connecting your client environment to BC, and include 5 free licenses for the year as a way for you to be able to evaluate and take a look at Business Central, take a look at the cloud environment, if you think that is something that's in your future and that you want to take a look at. Many customers are doing this as really almost like a proof of concept or the ability to at least get familiar with Business Central to determine and evaluate whether they want to migrate there. So, we're offering that as a part of the upgrade. We will do that set up and make the connection and the synchronization and the replication between GP and Business Central and include 5 licenses for you for 1 year. So so again, we appreciate your time today. Thank you for coming to our event. Sorry again for the technical problems that we had at the beginning and a little bit throughout with the screen sharing. We apologize for that. We thank you again for coming. If you have questions and want to get into this a little bit, we just kind of touched the surface today. If you want to talk more about the features, the licensing, upgrade pricing, all of those types of things, feel free to reach out to your account manager or just email sales@ktlsolutions.com or call the number here and reach out to us, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. Let me just see here real quickly if we've got any questions. One of the questions is just, Andrew, what are maybe on the workflow side, where are people using workflows the most? Is it around AP? functionality, invoice approvals, around, like vendor account. I know a lot of customers are using it for vendor account cards when they set them up or change them, for internal control steps. They don't want to make changes to those cards. Where are you seeing the most areas of workflow?
Yeah, mainly where it started at and so forth would be under the transaction based and approving the batches and things for the various AP, AR, and so forth. And then over the course of adding the workflows, they've actually increased it to also include, such as Steve mentioned, was the vendor approval and things, which I think was added in 2018 or so. And it's a very valuable feature where the vendor gets put in, is verified that the information is correct, and goes through the approval process. I have seen quite a few people starting to use that one now when they have that new environment available. But mainly it's been for like approving new GL accounts, now the new vendors, new customers, and then transaction data is mainly where we've been seeing the workflow enhancements being done. Now, as far as the ones that I showed you today for the system-wide, they're going to be more on the IT side and so forth. They're going to be more interested in those features. I don't really have any metrics on that yet because it's a new feature and we're still dealing with that. But I have a feeling we're going to find some people, especially like the user approval and so forth. It's going to be kind of interesting to see where that goes.
Okay. One last question is, when they do document attach and they attach a document to a transaction or to something, is that document, is that in the database? Does that stay in the SQL database, or where does that document reside?
It actually is stored within the SQL database, which is actually a very nice thing. In prior, I think it was 2013 and prior, they had things stored outside of GP, and it created a hassle sometimes when you didn't have access to that resource. Now that it's stored within GP, within SQL database, it's available to anybody in the system. So when that, for example, that Word document I brought up on my machine, if somebody else was in the organization, they could go ahead and have access to that screen. They could pull that up.
Right. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. Well, I appreciate it, Andrew. Thanks for being here. And thank you all for attending. Again, apologize for the technical difficulties, and we look forward to hearing from you. Be on the lookout in your email for the recording and the presentation deck from today. Thank you guys very much. Have a great day.